Nuts.
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 What are they?
What are nuts?
According to the botanical definition, which is not the original, most correct, useful, or best definition.
Oh, I'm really excited to hear this definition then.
A nut is a simple, dry, hard fruit composed of an inedible, tough, woody shell surrounding a single seed. The hard shell of the nut is formed from the ovary wall, which hardens after flowering. To meet the botanical definition, this shell does not naturally split open to reveal the seeds after reaching maturity, and the seed must be free and unattached inside the shell.
Okay, that sounds like a very specific description.
Now we're going to do a quiz that I'm going to call Nut or Not.
Well, that's. I don't know whether YouTube is the correct place to have that kind of quiz.
What's going to happen is I'm going to name a nut, and you're going to tell me if it's actually, according to the botanical definition, a nut or not.
This feels like it needs music.
So, first up, coconut. Is it a nut or not a nut?
Not a nut.
It's got nothing in it. It's
Not
just
seed, not nut.
no, because it's got a hard outer shell, but it ain't got the bit in the middle, so it ain't a nut.
So, it's not a nut. You're right, but it absolutely is a seed.
Okay.
And the part of the nut that we eat is the seed. But the thing that makes it not a nut is that it's actually a kind of drupe, which is a fruit with a single hard-shelled seed inside, like an apricot or a plum. But the hard outer layer that we see of coconuts is actually the endocarp of the seed, and not the it's not that hardened woody ovary of the fruit. And the ovary actually, that ovary wall gets removed usually before we see it in the supermarket, and that's the sort of fibrous mesocarp, and then the exocarp is that green skin.
I feel so foolish for saying it wasn't a seed. Anybody who ever trusted anything I said, I'm sorry.
Well, the thing is, you plant a coconut.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It does. You
get more
you
coconuts.
plant a coconut, you get a tree.
Yeah, and the reason they're hollow inside is because they're expected to, they're filled with water, and they're kind of expecting to like float massive distances, and then land, wash up somewhere, and then sprout there. And they actually, when they sprout, it's really amazing because it develops this coconutty foam inside, this like crisp kind of foam that the sprout shoots out of, and it's sort of surrounded by this layer of coconut fat that lines the inside of the seed. It's really cool. Coconuts are wild. Next up, we've got the Brazil nut.
Oh, that's got to be a nut, right?
Or not?
Because it's got nut in the title.
I just feel like they're all going to be not nuts. That's the problem. I want to say nut, but I feel like they're all going to be not nuts. I'm going to say it's a nut.
Jen?
I said nut. I want it to be nut.
Not a nut.
Interesting.
Brazil nuts. Yeah. So Brazil nuts are one, like coconuts, that I'd always heard of as a kid. Actually, a Brazil nut's not a nut.
A Brazil nut is not a nut. That's what you sound like right now.
Yeah, that's how I sound through this entire presentation.
Actually,
that's not a nut. But yeah, Brazil nut is not a nut, according to the strict botanical definition, which is not the original, most correct, most useful, or best definition. It's not a nut. It's a seed, one of many seeds from a capsule fruit. So when these large, heavy wooden fruits fall to the ground, a agouti, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but they're large rodents, which are enticed to open them up via a small hole on one end to eat the seeds, so they have to kind of gnaw their way through this little opening to widen it and release the seeds. And there are so many seeds inside that they will bury some to reserve for later. So they're effectively distributing and planting any of those seeds that they don't then come back to eat.
So they're the squirrels of Brazil.
Yeah.
Hang on. Brazil nuts are from Brazil,
that's
right?
The question.
Yes, they are.
Fantastic.
Yes, they are.
Because they're not nuts. They better be from bloody Brazil.
They are, in fact, from Brazil. Next up, walnut. Nut or not a nut?
It's a brain, actually. It's neither a nut nor not a nut. It's a brain.
Fool me once, won't be fooled again. It's not a nut.
Yeah?
I'm going to be contrarian and say it's a nut.
Okay. It is actually not a nut.
Sweet.
Similarly to the coconuts, the hard shell of the walnut is the endocarp of the seed, which is housed inside the kind of fruit, like the fleshy fruit, like a plum. So it's also a kind of drupe, and that sort of fleshy fruit opens up to reveal the seed when it's mature. Walnut, not a nut.
Would it fit nicely into a nuts and berries mix?
It would fit very nicely into a nuts and berries mix, and I do have to say that's the best qualification, really, isn't it?
Like, it's like fruit salads is the best way to sort of describe a fruit, right? Like, you wouldn't put tomatoes in a fruit salad.
For me, my main concern is like allergy reasons, because I have customers that come to me, they say, oh, I am allergic to these kinds of nuts. And then I look through the thing, I find a million other kinds of nuts, and they always get super annoyed when I come over and I say, what about this one? And what about this one? And what about this one? And they say, no, it's fine.
Yeah, but people are often like allergic to multiple kinds of nuts, even if they're not botanically defined as nuts. So the word nut is very useful outside of the botanical context. However, that's all we care about in this presentation.
Yeah, next time someone says, oh, I'm allergic to walnuts, you go, no, you're not. Walnuts, they're not nuts. How can you be allergic? How can you be allergic to something that's not actually a nut? Actually, I think you're just lying to me. I think you're just like a snowflake.
Actually, it's not a nut that you're allergic to. It's just a wall.
Yeah.
All right, next up. Cashews. Nut.
Gotta be a nut.
I think
Gotta be a
they're
nut.
a fruit.
Or not a nut.
Would you put it in a
Okay,
fruit salad,
then
Rach?
what's
Would you put a cashew in a fruit salad?
Let's remember
I'm
our
trying to
original
remember.
definition.
That's what I'm
A
trying
nut
to do.
is a fruit that's composed of the hardened ovary wall
Why is
as
this
well
so
as the
hard?
seed. So the bit you eat is the seed.
Why is this so Why have you...
They're all not going to be nuts, Rach.
I'd studied for this, maybe.
Just think hard, and none of them are going to be nuts.
I'm going to say this one's
They're all
a
gonna
nut.
be.
I think this one's a nut.
Oh, Rach.
I want it to be a nut. I want it to be a nut.
Oh,
I
Rachel,
don't
Rachel,
believe it's a nut.
Rachel.
I'm going to pretend it's a nut.
A cashew nut is not a nut.
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
It's actually a
picture
very
before.
strange
Yeah.
thing. So, like the coconut and the walnut, it's considered a drupe.
But it doesn't look anything like the other drupes.
And it also grows a cashew apple, which is actually not, so you eat it as a fruit and it's called a fruit, but it's actually not that large sort of juicy fruity shape is actually an accessory fruit, and it's formed from the kind of part of of what would have been was the flower, where it attaches to the stem of the tree. Also, very interestingly, the actual fruit of the cashew, the actual fruit, the drupe, surrounding the cashew nut is like a sort of double layer, and within that there is a substance that's very, very nasty and is actually related to what you'd find in poison ivy, because it's actually a related plant. And and it's extremely irritating. So people have to be very careful when they're handling it because they can cause like really horrible rashes.
Are they called cashew nuts because if you breathe them in, they make you sneeze? Cashew.
Is the accessory fruit tasty?
Yeah, people really, really like the accessory fruit. Apparently it bruises easily, so that's why you're not as likely to see them sort of out of the locations where they're grown. That's why, you know, we're all eating cashew nuts and not cashew, like they call them cashew apples. It's commonly eaten and enjoyed, but it's quite astringent, so quite often it will be used to make juice rather than, and kind of stringy. So it's quite often used to make juice rather than just sort of munched on.
But it's not a nut.
It's not a nut.
It's not a nut, no.
My money's on the next one,
and
though.
it's not technically a fruit. Okay, next one. Pistachios. What do we think?
It's split
Nut?
and open, and that's
Nut?
what's making me think it's not a nut. It's because it's split.
Okay, very wise. I'm very impressed that you remembered that from the description.
But you don't want to be eating them if they're already open because it means they're dead. They're dead when they've been caught. Or is that mussels?
It's oysters, yeah.
I realise that making a joke about mussels to two vegetarians is...
Yeah, I don't.
I have heard that.
You had to explain it to
shellfish.
me. So what do we think? Nut or not nut? Final
I've
guess.
said not nut.
It's not a nut, but...
But if you tell me I'm wrong, I'm going to...
Yeah, if we say not nut and you tell us it is a nut, I'm going to come over to your house and I'm going to delete your PowerPoint.
So while I'm very impressed that Rachel remembered that to be defined as a nut, it mustn't split open to reveal its seed. But there's a bigger reason. It's actually a drupe. Again, it has a soft, fleshy fruit surrounding the seed, and the hard shell that we see in the supermarket when we buy pistachio nuts is actually the endocarp, the hard shell of the seed within the fruit.
I just wouldn't look at that and think, pistachio. I wouldn't have guessed.
Right. It was discovering that pistachios are like a little soft fruit. I saw someone eat the fruit. I don't think it's regularly eaten, but it's because it's very thin as well. But apparently it tastes a little like mangoes, and it is actually related to mangoes.
See, I'd assume that these sorts of fruits would taste like the nuts.
Apparently, I saw someone eating the cashew apple, and he said that the cashew apple did taste a little like the cashew nut, which I thought was really interesting. Next up, peanuts. Nut or not nut?
It's the quintessential nut. It is the quintessential nut.
Yeah. Is it one though? Is it a nut? Jen, is it actually a nut?
Oh no, I bet it's a pea and not a nut. That's my final answer. It's a pea. It's not a nut, it's a pea.
Rach, what do you think?
I think it's not a nut. It's a pea!
Well, it's a legume. I don't know if it's specifically a pea, but it is a legume.
Nuts.
And peanuts actually grow in an incredible way. So you can see on this picture on the right, you can actually see all these like little sort of bubbles on the roots. Those are the sort of nodules, the root nodules that are they're there to be a habitat for nitrogen fixing bacteria. And the peanuts actually grow. So after flowering, once the flower of the peanut plant has been pollinated, it grows. The ovary is sort of at the end there by the flower, and it's called a peg, and that peg grows outwards and downwards into the ground, and then enlarges and becomes this peanut, the pod for the peanuts in underground.
There are so many jokes I can make about this. I'm really holding back.
Yeah. Peanuts are really weird.
Yeah.
They're peas, and not only are they, well, they're legumes, and not only that, they grow underground, and you have to pull them up to harvest them. Very weird. All right, next up, hazelnuts.
Mm-hmm.
Nut. Not.
Nut.
Did you say
I
nut
said
or
nut.
not? Okay.
I have faith in the hazelnut.
It's not a nut, is it?
It's a nut. It's a nut. So we can see there's our hard shell that's formed.
Being able to see doesn't make a difference to whether or not it seems to fit this definition. You show us a photo of it looking normal, and then you show us a photo of it attached to some weird fruit, and then
So what you get in the shop is pretty much, what the nut looks like on the tree. It's this hard shell that's formed from the ovary of the flower, and the nut is free and unattached inside the shell. There's a nut.
Is it the only one?
There's a couple. There's a couple of others.
I'm just frustrated that you bait and switch us.
The most classic of nuts, the almond. Is it a nut?
No.
Or is it not a nut?
What is it about almonds that you're not meant to do with them? They're like poisonous or something?
No, it's things that smell of almond. Cyanide. Or arsenic.
Bedbugs. Bedbugs smell of almonds.
Do
That's
they?
what it is. You pop a bedbug and you smell almonds.
Alright. Almonds. Nut or not?
Nut. I've become confident. I've gotten too big for my own boots now.
It's an almond. How can it not be a nut, right? It's not a nut. It's a drupe. Again.
Right. Are you enjoying this, Nat?
Yeah.
Are you taking pleasure from this experience?
Yeah, a little.
Build me up and knock me down.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's actually a little bit cruel.
Yeah, it's a little bit cruel. I've tried to set these up to be as cruel as possible, to be quite frank. So the almond is actually in the Prunus genus of stone fruits. So it's in the same kind of family as plums, peaches, cherries, and apricots. As Rach mentioned just now, cyanide is supposed to smell like almonds, and that is because it's found in almonds. I knew
arsenic was not arsenic. Almonds were bad. You're not meant to snort almonds or something? Something to do with almonds.
Almonds themselves, sweet almonds that we eat in the supermarkets, are perfectly safe because we've cultivated plants that have so little cyanide in them that it's not going to cause you any trouble.
How many would you
have to eat? Truly massive, like impossible amounts of almonds.
It's like how bananas
to actually get cyanide poisoning.
It's like how bananas are radioactive, but you don't want to actually, like, in order to die of banana radiation poisoning, or is it radiation, or they're like the potassium so much in them, you'd have to eat like 2,000 in one go.
Yeah.
Bananas aren't nuts, are they?
They're berries.
The stones of all of these fruits, the seeds of all of these fruits, have that sort of bitter cyanide compound in the stones, and we've just specifically bred almonds. You can get varieties of wild bitter almonds and also sweet almonds that we've cultivated, and the wild bitter ones have way more cyanide in them. So all of the seeds in this genus, in the Prunus genus, of plums, apricots, peaches, cherries, they all have they all have kind of unsafe levels of cyanide in them, which has this like bitter almond flavor, and also they have those like sweet almond flavors kind of alongside it, and they they will use apricot kernels and also like bitter almond kernels for making amaretto and also amaretti, because they can sort of separate out the sweet, tasty kind of almond flavors from the dangerous cyanide compound.
So somebody with a grudge working at the amaretto factory could cause some trouble.
Oh yeah, they look exactly the same as well.
That's gonna be the plot of my next novel.
The really cool thing is that there are some kind of apricots where they've basically there are some cultivars of apricots that they've also kind of that regularly enough produce sweet nuts as well, so you can have a sweet fruit and the sweet almond nut in the same place. So that's cool.
As long as it doesn't kill me.
As well, like maraschino cherries, the flavour of maraschino cherries is not just the soft sweet fruit of the cherry, it's the cherry pip as well, and the cherry stone has that almond flavour as well. Which you wouldn't want to eat on its own, but once it's been processed to remove the cyanide, then it has a very nice flavour. Okay, next up. What do we think? Acorns, nuts, or not nuts?
Nuts.
Nuts. Nuts. Yeah, nuts.
You're both right. Almonds are not nuts. Acorns are nuts. Simple. It's you look at it. There's the hard fruit on the outside. It's got a seed inside. That's a nut. Simples. What do you think? Chestnuts?
No, because they have the soft fruit on the outside, and then the soft fruit comes away. So they're a droop. Are they droops?
What do you think, Jen?
Sure.
Rach, you've been extremely wise. You've put what you've learned to the test in making this guess, but I'm afraid a chestnut is a nut for very specific reasons that you could not possibly have guessed.
I don't like this game.
So, the spiny covering of the chestnut is actually not formed from the ovary of the fruit.
The bits that go around the edge of the flower.
It's not the sepals, I think you're describing. It is a cupule, which is like similar to the cashew apple. It's formed from the part that kind of connects the flower to the stem. And it's an accessory fruit that protects and holds the nuts, which are each individual fruits, until they're mature. And they can hold between 1 and 7 nuts.
Yeah, they do have multiple. Sometimes, yeah. That's true. Absolutely scuppered.
There you go. You got scuppered. And that is the last one. A chestnut is, in fact, a nut. Most of the things we call nuts are not, according to the botanical definition, which is not the original best, most useful definition. It just is the botanical definition of nuts. Are not nuts.
Where do we find this Mr. Botanical? I want to have some words with him.
Hungry.
Anyway, that's your information about nuts. I hope you're feeling satisfied, content, full.
No.
Feeling full of delicious nut formation.
I'm never full of delicious nuts.